Welcome to the Tuesday edition. Well, there's not really a Tuesday edition of Anglican Unscripted. There's usually a Monday, Wednesday, Friday edition. But George and I are not quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Regular. Organized enough to do that. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's January 13th, 2015.
Welcome to the Wednesday show, and George and I will give you a couple updates on stories that's been going around the Anglican Communion. First, we need to hit Maryland. George, you remember that show called Dragnet?
Mm-hmm.
Just the facts.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. So we're going to play Detective Friday, and we're going to give you just the facts that we know, because we're not bloggers. We're not going to play this up and be more sensational than we need to be. We need to cover this as Christian newscasters and talk about a very serious situation that's happened at Christmas time and the update since the last update of the update. What was the last update? She was arrested, George.
Monday, Bishop Cook had her bail hearing. She spent the weekend in the Baltimore County Jail under protective custody. Mm-hmm. On Monday, she appeared before Judge Klein Piscatori, I believe is the judge's name, woman judge. And the district attorney asked that bail be kept at $2.5 million cash, meaning she has to come up with the money, or a bail bonds company has to put the money forward. She cannot put up a cash equivalent like a house or something. Mm-hmm. Her attorney said, she's not a flight risk. She has lifelong ties to the community. She's a bishop. Where's she going to go? And the judge said, well, she showed callous indifference for life, and she's been arrested for DUI before, so we're going to keep it at $2.5 million cash, which means unless an angel appears, Bishop Cook is going to be in prison until trial. Mm. So that's where we are legally.
What do we know as facts on the ground as far as why she was arrested? We know that she was involved in a hit and run. We know that she left the scene and came back once from the police report. Then she came back a second time. Was interviewed by police. They took her to the police station. She blew a .22, which is quite over the legal drinking limit in Maryland.
Well, for those of you not so medically inclined, .2 blood alcohol. According to the arrest record, which you can see online at the Maryland Judicial System website, Bishop Cook is 5'7", weighs 250 pounds. Alcohol affects people of different sizes and weights. A 98-pound person can have one drink and be bombed. A 400-pound lumberjack can have a lot more and not affect him. Bishop Cook blew a .22 in the middle of the day, early afternoon, meaning that she had 6, 8, 10 glasses of red wine, a pint of hard liquor, early in the morning, early in the day. So this is quite a red flag, both for the arresting officers and the judge, about someone who appears to have an alcohol problem.
Mm-hmm. And she also came, I guess she was coming from work. So she was able to function at that level, enough so that the people did not know that she was drunk.
Yes, she was able to function. And what I picked up on what you just said, Kevin, was that the diocese has admitted that she was texting on a diocesan cell phone mm-hmm. at the time of the accident. So that opens the door for horrendous liability for the diocese, because here she's coming from work, doing work on a diocesan cell phone when the accident occurs.
And what's interesting with a functional alcoholic like that was we're not going to know if the alcohol caused the accident, the texting caused the accident. You'll never know the specifics unless she tells you exactly how the accident was called. Now, did she, at her hearing, plead not guilty or anything, or have we not got that far yet?
She's been arraigned, mm-hmm. and there's a pro forma arraignment.
Okay, so there's no plea yet. All right.
Now, we've got some details that have emerged. One is that immediately after the accident, she checked herself into Father Martin's Ashley, which is a very Tony alcohol rehabilitation, rehabilitation center in Maryland. And she was in the rehab center until she surrendered herself to police. One of the things her attorney says that she would, if her bail was released, agree to house arrest or agree to stay inside this residential alcohol treatment center until trial. And the court said, no, she's going to be in jail. Mm-hmm. The other thing that has come out, we're starting to hear from clergy who attended the Diocese of Maryland private session at their retreat center, Camp Claggett. Bishop Sutton and his assistant sort of gave an overview as to what they knew and what was happening. And some of the things that came out were quite interesting. Early on, some commentators have lambasted the search committee or nailed Bishop Sutton. I mean, it's not that simple. It's not, nor is it that easy or clear. Just a bit of a background. Presiding bishop's office is the one responsible really for conducting criminal background checks. Mm-hmm. They pass the information on to the search committee. The search committee itself does not do the searching of background information. They hire outside people. The presiding bishop's office assists, and they're given information. They were told that one of their candidates had a DUI arrest. Would that, in theory, disqualify that person from further consideration?
Now, let's be clear what we're saying here. We're saying that the presiding bishop's office knew that one of the candidates had a DUI arrest in their history at some point, but did not pass on exactly who that was to the search committee so they would not be prejudiced.
Who it was, nor is it clear when this arrest took place. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. Now, if you ask me, theoretically speaking, and if I were on the search committee, one of the people has a DUI arrest, should that automatically disqualify them? I would say no, if that's all I knew. Simply because if somebody was arrested when they were 19 with beer and 30, 40 years have passed and they've lived, people change, people reform. Just the simple act of having sinned is not an absolute disbarment. Mm-hmm. I'm not aware of any facts that point out that the search committee knew that this DUI happened in 2010. And second, no, Kevin, when you become a priest in the Episcopal Church, you have to go through a psychological and a psychiatric evaluation. You see two different doctors.
How did you pass this, George?
Well, I didn't.
You didn't, that's right.
Well, no, actually, I did pass all the tests, but Charles Bennison, who was bishop at the time, new bishop of Pennsylvania, said he'd met me in his office and said, George, you're a very intelligent young man, you're very well educated, but you have these beliefs in literal things like the virgin birth and a bodily resurrection. Either you're crazy or you're evil, because you're not stupid, and I'm going to send you back to the psychiatrist to make sure you're not crazy. Well, the psychiatrist told me I was not crazy, I was just
Orthodox, conservative, yes.
Conservative, whatever you want to say.
But there is a process for weeding out people who are potentially have a mental illness or a disease that could be problemsome to their employment.
In the beginning, mm-hmm. I don't think, and I stand to be corrected here, but I doubt that is psychological evaluations are done when a person stands for bishop. They certainly weren't done for Charles Bennison, because I mean, if the two of us were seen by a doctor, I'm pretty certain he would be the crazier of the two. Well, I think this issue is important is that Bishop Cook in 2010, when she was arrested, was so drunk and blew a .27 blood alcohol testing and had drugs paraphernalia in her car and was so bombed that the arresting officer's report says she was unaware that she was even being given a sobriety test. That person has a substance abuse problem. Would an evaluation show 4 years later whether she had conquered or had that substance abuse problem in control when she stood for election? Mm-hmm. And so Bishop Sutton sort of knew. The search committee sort of knew. Now, Bishop Sutton may have known who it was, but the amount of information they were given, I don't think was sufficient for them to be able to make an absolute decision, yay or nay. And unfortunately for our rabid conservative viewers, there really are no villains here in the episcopal search process, but the presiding bishop's office.
Well, it's interesting because, in a way, a person who gets this far in this chain is a victim of the circumstance as well. There are, even in Scripture, places where there is an accountability of who does what when. 1 Timothy 3 talks about what you need to be a bishop. If a person feels that they're called to be a bishop, they need to be above reproach, not taken to wine. Their children need to be well raised. There's a whole list of things behind a bishop. Would that have?
She was a man with one wife.
Yeah. Stop. No. But in that reality, would 1 Timothy 3 have been enough to have stopped this from going forward? And with the DUI, it would have given cause to look further into it instead of just blowing it off. So, there's things, where did this process break down? And we don't really know.
The process broke down because it's viewed as a process, I believe. It's viewed as a process. It's a system. When I went through the ordination process, the man who sponsored me, a man named Dan Sullivan, Father Dan, I think I was the 20th young man and woman he sponsored for ordination in the Episcopal Church. His parish of Good Samaritan in Paoli, Pennsylvania, just raised up young men and women again and again and again to serve the gospel. Father Dan told me, when I would be asked questions by the search committee in Philadelphia, not to answer things in a certain way. You start off lying and gaming the system. Don't tell them what you think about women bishops, women clergy, ordination, abortion, gun control. I mean, just talk about birds and bees and puppy dogs and trees, and you'll get through the system. So if you're either very conservative or very liberal in the Episcopal system that I came through, you learned to prevaricate. And then once you're in, short of making America's Most Wanted, you just glide through. And here we have a case where this Bishop Cook played the system. I would assume that she knew she had a problem, or she was so sick that she didn't think it was a problem. But these things come out no matter what. And Kevin, in my reporting for the Living Church and the Church of England newspaper, I've written stories about bishops who have stolen, bishops who have been sexual predators, bishops who have been adulterers. And that's just the Episcopal Church. Forget about the Church of South India, North India, and crooks.
Zambia. I mean, there's,
The point being, when we view this as a process, and instead of allowing the Holy Spirit to guide us, of course we're going to get a man-made outcome. And that man-made outcome is going to produce situations like this.
So we do need the church to be in prayer for this. This is a situation where a person who was not beyond reproach is being treated by the secular press and the secular world exactly everything we want to avoid a bishop being looked at as. And it's a black eye for the church. So we need to be in prayer about this. And we run out of time for our next story, so we'll cover our next story at the next episode. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 151 of Anglican Unscripted.
Which means I have to edit today, things. I take the day off and worry about my surgery tomorrow, that type of thing. But it's kind of better than do this today. Whatever. Kidney Zone Central. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Tuesday, not Wednesday edition of Anglican Unscripted. If you're watching this on Wednesday, I'm actually on a operating table at an outpatient facility at Waterbury Hospital where they're zapping my last 2 kidney stones. Yay! Oh boy. Oh, how do we do an intro? Oh, I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And today is January 14th. Oh, it's not.